Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to be making a saw out of some ash lumber that I had laying around. I actually cut this lumber down a few years ago from some ash trees that were destroyed by the ash borer here in New York. Doing some layout here with some electrical tape and a square, just marking my circles. Those are around the right size. Just doing some rough layout here, just kind of giving me an idea of what I'm trying to make. I'm just carrying these lines through with a square here just to give me something to cut. These are rough, right off the saw. So I'll have a lot of shaping I can do. Take off both ends at the miter saw here. And then taking over the table saw, I can make those long rip cuts. Now over the sander to get that rounded profile, just taking little bits off at a time here, trying to sneak up on that line. Now I'm marking the center on both edges there, so I can drill some holes that I inset the brass rods there that you see in frame. I'll have a full set of plans published for this as well, going through all these steps. Now I'm making those holes, I believe they're 1/4 inch. Gives a nice tight fit with those brass holders that I selected there. I'll have a link to those in the description as well. Now I'm laying out my top cross piece here out of that same ash, and just using the same technique of marking circles. So I kind of skip through some of this as it's very repetitive. Now after getting that piece cut, I'm marking here as I'm going to do a dado on both sides so that the arms sit in this cross member, just like so. So just marking that, and I'll sneak up to that cut on the saw and remove that section there. I'm just double checking this, make sure I'm thinking this through properly. I make these cuts on the table saw with my crosscut sled, just out of convenience, and makes it a little easier. And it allows me to sneak up on those lines so I have a nice tight fit. I repeat this on both sides of the piece so that both arms can fit in on each side. Now similarly, rounding those pieces off, just as I did with the arm pieces. Leave me with a nice circle and that dado. Now taking over the router table, I'm just putting an 1/8 inch round over on all the sides to give it a nice smooth edge to touch. And then I'll follow that up with some sanding, just as that's where your hands will be touching the majority of the time you're using the saw. Now I'm finally epoxying in those brass rods that hold the blade of the saw. I'm just using some old epoxy that I have sitting around and mixing it with a chopstick, one of the few uses I actually have for them. Most of them are actual bamboo, so they make good stir sticks as well as dowels if you run short on your own. They make a nice strong connection. But for mixing and this technique here that I'm showing, they work very well. So I mix up that epoxy and add a little bit to each of those brass rods, just so that when I put them in that hole, they won't have a tendency to come out with the tension that I'm going to put on them with the saw. And make sure to wipe up any excess squeeze out of that epoxy as the finish that I'm applying in this project. You'll be able to see it if you don't get all that off. So I make sure they're aligned perfectly by using those vice grips and then tap them in. Now I'm once again marking the center of these arms here to put a through hole which my cable will go through that allows me to tension the saw. Now drilling those through holes, this was also a 1/4 inch bit. I'll drill them slowly through the piece, as this ash is very hard, very difficult wood to work with. And then I'll come back with my hand drill and just put a slight chamfer on both of these, just to give the string cable that I put through just a nicer edge so it doesn't have a tendency to tear or wear over time. I'm using boiled linseed oil for this finish, as most of this will be touched with your hands quite a bit as you're using the saw, and that boiled linseed oil doesn't irritate your skin as much as other film finishes do. I use them on any tool handles that you would touch regularly and your hands rub on. They don't callus and don't give you blisters over time, or have a lower tendency to do so. Show one coat on camera, but I end up doing a few over the course of a few days. And over the next few months, as I use the tool, I add a coat every now and then when I think of it. Now assembling the saw, you put the blade on those little holders there, those brass holders, and then using the cable or string, you can put it through and tension it, which puts tension on the blade, which allows you to use the saw to make cuts. Now this may seem like a dated design, but this works much better than a lot of commercial saws you can buy, and it gives you the ability to have a deeper cut than you will normally with a lot of commercial saws. And using this small stick here is how you put tension on. By rotating that string around, it tensions the blade on the other end as the string gets shorter, so you have the ability to fine tune what your tension is on the blade. Now doing a test cut with it, you can see it works very well. And as always, thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and comment down below of any other future project you'd like to see me make. I'll have a full set of plans for this, as well as links in the description below. Thank you for watching.